Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Ask Me Anything, where people come and ask us just about anything they can think of regarding blockchain, Blockcerts, credence code, Fineos, the State of the Union. Well, we try not to get into politics, but Tim, welcome. Good morning.
How you doing, Jay?
I'm
I,
doing
I
great.
think we do try to get into politics. That's what I spent most of my week doing last week, is talking to politicians about blockchain.
Well, I guess when you look at it that way, we are politically influential. You want to give us an update on what you've been doing?
Absolutely. Well, it was a long number of days out on the road. I think almost 3 weeks, and mostly on the east, actually totally on the east coast of the U.S. Congratulations out to my little personal congratulations out to my daughter-in-law to be for getting her PhD at Yale. I attended the Yale University commencement, and it was cool. Looking at the commencement doctoral thesis is, this is going to get to be a very cool world. So I'm pretty excited about where everything's going. Last week, I met literally with politicians and PhDs. Most interesting were some of my conversations with MIT, and we're going to get very involved with MIT on our blockchain. I'm excited about that. Spoke about everything from blockchain to quantum computing at Harvard. So you can tell I spent a lot of time with the uber smart people out of Boston and New York City. Some great conversations with other blockchain companies and thought leaders and companies out there actually doing it, and building applications who we're working with now. So it's all in all just been a fantastic week, and I'm really excited to share more. But that's not what today's about. Today is about asking you anything, Jay, on investing and how you see the world of blockchain and Blockcerts and investments. So I've got a ton of questions that came in, and would like to get going on that. If you're ready, sir, it's your turn to be on the firing line.
I am ready. We do have an open forum, so if anyone has questions during the course of this, besides the ones that have already been submitted through the course of the week, feel free to pop them into the Q&A or into the chat window. Either one. We'll see them and we'll ask them.
Awesome. Okay, so here's the first question. It came from a very brilliant lady that her name is Sarah, and she says, explain to me, as though I don't understand anything about blockchain or tokens, what's the difference between investing in a BCert token and a Bitcoin?
Okay, well, first of all, if you don't know anything about blockchain, you need to understand the fundamental concept. Blockchain is basically a distributed ledger where everyone owns a copy of the ledger, and that keeps things it keeps them secure. Everything is cryptographically secured, and then everyone shares the ledger, so you can't make ledger entries that nobody else can see, because everybody sees everything that happens on the ledger. That's blockchain. Bitcoin is the first application on blockchain. So if you think about, go back to the old internet days of the beginnings of the internet, you had the people like AOL and stuff like that, and email was a big application on the internet. Before we were browsing and Googling and all that stuff, we were exchanging information via email. And just like we did that then, now people are exchanging value through Bitcoin or Ether or any number of cryptocurrencies out there. And they're called cryptocurrencies because they're blockchain-based cryptographic currencies. They're a store of value that can be transferred from one person to another. Everyone holds a copy of the ledger, so everyone sees every transaction. So if I say to Tim, I sent you a Bitcoin, and Tim says, well, I never got it, Well, there's a couple thousand people who will hold a copy of the ledger that can say, yeah, Tim, you got it, or no, Jay, you didn't send it. So that's the difference between blockchain and cryptocurrency. And then we get to Blockcerts, and Blockcerts is a whole new dimension of blockchain. So instead of exchanging a simple store of value, you can actually use blockchain to create what we call smart contracts, where people can enter into anything from a simple to a complex transaction over the blockchain. That way, everything is checked. The contract is just like a contract you have in paper, except now it's software code that's sitting on the blockchain. Everyone has a copy of the contract, and as things get checked off in the contract, you have that immutable trust because everyone knows what everyone's doing. And in order to do that, you need to have some way to access the software and the contract, right? So a Bcerts token is what you would use to authenticate yourself, get into the group that's in part of the contract, or create your own smart contract and actually utilize blockchain. So we're called a utility token because you can use it to do things, as opposed to a cryptocurrency where you're using it to pay for things or as a store of value.
Okay. So if I own these Bcert tokens and I've seen this, these tokens, this is the second part of the question, and I've seen these cryptocurrencies go incredibly volatile. Can you tell me what the volatility looks like and how it's different with
Sure.
these tokens?
Happy to try and answer that. Basically, volatility right now is based upon a couple of things. Bitcoin has been around for, and Tim, you know better than I, but I think it's like 5 or 6 years. But until last year, it was kind of under the radar screen. And then all of a sudden, people start finding out about it. You had the media write about it, and it's almost like a micro-cap stock. All of a sudden, it gained a lot of star power, and values went through the roof. And the values of Bitcoin kind of drug all the cryptocurrencies up because everyone said, hey, look, there's a new way to basically what they were doing at the time is gamble on values continuing to increase. So it was the greater fool theory. If I can buy it at this price and I can sell it at that price, then I'm going to go ahead and buy some and then sell them to somebody else down the line. So you saw this peak in December of last year, and then all of a sudden we started running out of greater fools. And what happened was people started actually selling to less demand. And it's a supply and demand thing. As soon as the demand started dying out, Bitcoin dropped like a rock from over $19,000 to almost $6,000, I think, back in February. That's volatility.
How will that be different with Bcert tokens?
But think about this. If you're using tokens to actually do things instead of creating a store of value, then the value of the tokens is based upon the utility that it provides instead of just some kind of esoteric value that's ascribed by a market supply and demand. So it's still a supply and demand equation, Tim, because when you think about it, if I've got 2.1 billion Bcerts tokens, which was the total that we're minting, and I was to drop those all on the market immediately, the price would go through the floor because there are going to be so many tokens and nobody even knows what to do with them, right? But if we release them gradually and carefully into the market and get people using them and create actual use for the tokens and a true utility where the demand is organic, it's by people who want to, hey, there's a new way for me to do my business. I can use these smart contracts and I can do things more efficiently. I can cut out the middleman, all the things that we've talked about in some of our past Ask Me Anything. Then all of a sudden you're creating a stable demand that's going to, level out at some point where the supply meets the demand. And if there's more demand than supply and the price of the Bitcoin or Bcert starts going through the roof, then all of a sudden people will find another way to do their business because they'll find, some other smart contract company. But we're not going to be releasing 2.1 billion tokens into the market. We're releasing a certain number of tokens to future tokens to investors today. And then we have some plans to introduce our tokens to groups of people over a period of time to create that utility and build a stable market for the BCerts tokens. And then as the demand outstrips supply, we'll have enough in our reserve to be able to offset any erratic price increases.
So kind of like the Federal Reserve does with money.
Yeah, we'll be taking a look at our money supply, which is BCerts tokens. And, we're not going to be, actively involved. Like, we're not just going to be printing tokens and sending them out because we think it's good. We've got some plans on rewarding the people who are using the tokens and getting the tokens into the market in a new and unique way. There are a number of things that we're doing that I don't think other cryptocurrency or token companies have really considered yet, like our token that regenerates, things like that we've explained in past Ask Me Anything webinars.
Well, you're right, Jay. I'll just jump in and add to that we'll talk more about that in future webinars and Ask Me Anythings, but remind me to tell you about token within a token and how Ink works, because that's a big one on volatility. Okay, so let's jump into the next one. James asked me, IBM has a blockchain. Why wouldn't I just buy their tokens or their stock, actually, and just do that?
Well, that's a great question. And obviously, IBM, all the big tech companies, Oracle, you read about all these companies that are doing things. IBM has really taken the lead, I think, on blockchain because they've partnered with Walmart and Maersk and a large number of companies to present blockchain solutions. But as an investor, there are some things that I think about that would give me pause and make me look towards maybe Blockcerts as an alternative. Number one, IBM's a blue chip company. They're a very big company, and only part of this total behemoth is focused on blockchain. And so even if blockchain is wildly successful, how far is that going to move their stock? They're already a stock that's recognized in the market. So, you're as an investor, you're going to have the solidity of knowing that you're in a blue chip company, but you're also not going to have the kind of returns that you'll get with a company like Blockcerts that's going to be a little more aggressive and focus solely on blockchain. So as blockchain grows exponentially, yeah, there will be a dividend paid to IBM shareholders, but I think there will be a much larger value increase for the people who own BCerts tokens. Plus, you can't own IBM tokens, you can only own shares of IBM, whereas with Blockcerts, you can actually own tokens and rent them out and see recurring revenue on your tokens as their value appreciates.
Okay.
And Tim, feel free to step in if because you and I are kind of compadres here, and
right.
And if there's something that I'm missing, feel free to fill in the blanks because I want.
I think that was a great answer, Jay. And again, it's just about all of these guys have technology, and like you point out, they're all invested in blockchain. So I think one thing to point out is they are investing in blockchain at the IBM level. SAP, when I was in New York, I saw them all. Microsoft, SAP, IBM. So the big guys are in. The upside with a big guy is going to be extremely limited from an investment standpoint, as opposed to a company like us that's introducing a brand new model, a brand new blockchain, and in fact, challenging some of the existing and many of the existing paradigms out there. So it's kind of like taxis didn't go away, but would you rather have invested in a company that owns taxi stands or Uber? That would be my example.
Cool.
So, okay, I've got one from Noreen, and the question is, how much do I have to invest to be a Blockcert token holder?
Well, Noreen, that's a great question. And what I'd like to do is kind of set the foundation for you so you can understand where we're at with our BCerts tokens. We consider right now that our future tokens are securities. So what we're doing is we're offering to accredited investors only the opportunity to purchase blocks of BCerts tokens in advance. So these are future tokens that will be delivered to them when we have the utility actually up and running. So we're treating these tokens as a security, and we're doing that for two reasons. Number one, it kind of is a security right now because we don't actually, I can't deliver a token to you. Well, I could, but I don't want to deliver a token to you today because I don't want it to be like a cryptocurrency. I want it to be something that has utility. And number two, the SEC has basically said here in the United States that any token or cryptocurrency, and they don't really make a distinction between the two yet, are considered securities by the SEC. So if you're selling tokens, you should treat it as a security. So that's what we did. We actually filed with the SEC a document called a 506C, which is a general solicitation offering our future tokens to accredited investors only through a private placement memorandum that has all the boilerplate needed for full disclosure to potential investors, who we are, what we're doing, what the odds are that they're going to make money, and all that stuff. And we incorporated into that document a simple agreement for future tokens, which is kind of the de facto standard right now on how to buy tokens in today's world. So with the SAFT and the private placement memorandum, our accredited investors can come in, they can look at all the documentation, they can make a decision on whether or not they want to buy tokens. And to get to your question, $10,000 is now our minimum. We had it at $50,000, but we decided that there are some investors who want to spread their blockchain bets around a couple of different startups, and there was no reason to limit them to just having to invest in us, or maybe they want to pick 5 different companies to invest in, and 10,000 could go into Blockcerts. So we're now at a $10,000 minimum.
Okay, and how do I buy Blockcerts? What are my options?
Well, it's pretty simple. You go on to the Blockcerts or Credence Code websites, and there's a get more information or register for more information button. You click that, you register. That basically allows us to get in touch with you, and then we will contact you. If you are an accredited investor and you're interested in investing, we'll deliver all the necessary paperwork to you so that you can see for yourself what we're doing. And then we can walk you through the investing process. It's really very simple. We've got it down to a science, and we'll be happy to get you on board.
Okay. Glenn asked this question: can I use my IRA to invest in Blockcerts?
The short answer is yes. You can use your IRA, and in many cases a 401k. It has to be a self-directed IRA, so if you're with a large company, basically all you need to do is create a self-directed IRA. There are some hoops you have to go through, so before you want to get involved in that, contact myself or Robert Gerard, our president at Credence Code, and we can walk you through what's necessary for a self-directed IRA to invest in our BCerts tokens. The bottom line is, yes, you can do it.
Okay. Now I've got Vinay, and Vinay is asking, do I need to be a U.S. citizen to invest in Blockcerts tokens?
No, right now we actually have investors from the United States and Canada. Obviously, anytime we take investment from a different jurisdiction, we have to take a look at what their particular regulations are regarding security sales, and then we conform to their regulations. And in some cases, it may be that you're prohibited. Some countries prohibit people from buying tokens right now, and if you're in one of those countries, you're out of luck. But I would say for the majority of the countries out there, if you want to invest in Blockcerts, give us a call. We'll be happy to discuss it with you, find out what's involved, and make it as painless and easy as possible so that you can enjoy the benefits of seeing the upside to a Blockcerts token. And, speaking about that, Tim, we have mentioned before, we started our Blockcerts BCerts tokens at 5 cents, and that was just to get the ball rolling. We had some investors come in at 5 cents, and they're very happy because we doubled the price to 10 cents. On June 22nd, the price is going to 25 cents. So the people who are investing at 5 cents are very happy to see a 5x return on paper on their investment. The people who invested at 10 cents are going to be happy to see a 2.5x. And in July, we'll be going to 50 cents. And the reason for that is threefold. Well, actually, there's probably more. But the main drivers are, before we started, we were off the radar screen. Nobody knew what we were doing. Today, you were just mentioned as the 6th most influential thought leader by Entrepreneur Magazine for 2018. We have a number of different things that are coming out in the media. People are beginning to see us. Our web traffic is going up. So demand is starting to pick up. So that's number one. Number two, we're starting to see utility in our tokens. We have a couple of use cases that we've established. So as we bring on use cases and larger customers like this, we don't really need to fund as much out of the investor side because we're starting to generate revenue the old-fashioned way. We're selling stuff. And number three, we're going to be selling a lot more stuff when we start doing some of our new implementations that we don't really want to talk about right now, but I'm telling you, there are some really exciting things that are coming up in June and July that are going to drive value in the BCerts tokens that we believe will be reflected in the price. So July 23rd, we're going to 50 cents. Right now, you can buy it for 10 cents. So you missed out on the 5 cent. You probably don't want to miss out on the 10 cent if you're an accredited investor and you have an interest in investing in blockchain.
I'll add to that, Jay. You're right. I was just counting this morning the media events that we'll be attending somewhere in the world. And let me just give you a quick list. I'll be speaking in Vancouver next week. There's Blockchain Northwest in Seattle. It's the very first blockchain event in the Pacific Northwest. So that's in Seattle. In LA, I believe the week after that, you're going to be down speaking in Los Angeles on blockchain. Isn't that correct, Jay?
Yes, there's going to be a LA blockchain summit, and I'll be one of the speakers at that summit. And the focus of my talk will be the truth about smart contracts. So if you're in LA, come check it out.
Cool. And then in Mauritius in August, there's an event that we'll be talking and doing some presentations with in August for Africa. And then this fall, I think we're dividing some time between the East Coast and Boston, blockchain and healthcare. And I know that I'm back here in Canada in October, speaking with a bunch of IP attorneys on blockchain and intellectual property. So you're right that there's no shortage. That's just 6 events, and that's probably within the last few weeks that have come in. So there's no shortage of people knowing what we're up to, or that we're definitely pushing the envelope in what's happening in blockchain.
The word's getting out thanks to our friend Dan Gay.
Exactly. We're getting a tremendous amount of traction, and Dan's the big mover and shaker behind that. So we appreciate that. Okay, last question is maybe second to last question. Elaine asked, I currently have a crypto wallet. Will this work with what I have right now, and can I invest crypto?
Well, there are 2 questions. So I'll answer them one at a time. The bottom line is, yes, you can invest crypto. We can take, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can take Bitcoin and Ether right now, correct?
Yeah, we can take any crypto as long as the subscription's approved. So obviously, some of crypto we may not accept, but we can accept anything.
Terrific. And number the first question was, can I use my wallet? And the fact of the matter is, as an accredited investor, you're getting a simple agreement for future tokens. If you have an ERC20 wallet, you will be able to take the tokens into your wallet when we actually issue them, but we are not issuing them until we actually have utility in the tokens established, and the Blockcerts exchange is up, because just because they're in your wallet, if you can't exchange them with anyone, what's the point?
Well, I will kind of round that out a bit. The tokens that we issue at the ICO will be Ethereum, convertible. There'll be a special Ethereum token, so ERC20, convertible to the Blockcert token, and you'll be able to go back and forth. So you can actually use this forever in any wallet that accepts ERC20 tokens.
Well, thank you. That's why you're the tech guy.
Exactly.
And I'm the investor guy.
So the answer is they'll be easily tradable and exchangeable and everything between Ethereum and in the future other tokens. But right now, Ethereum's big enough. It's got a huge presence. So.
And Tim, when we, another question for you. When we launch the Blockcerts exchange, that'll allow people basically to be exchanging Blockcerts tokens or lending them out or doing any number of things with tokens. But eventually, do you see us getting on other exchanges? Because that's a question that I hear from investors, and that's more your milieu. So I thought I'd punt that over to you.
Yeah, well, once we have the Ethereum token, it's listable on any exchange. So any exchange can trade a BCERT token the day it comes out. It doesn't have to be the Blockcerts exchange. What will happen, because we can go back and forth between the Ethereum Blockcert or the Ethereum BCERT and the BCERT token, that can be traded and moved around on a authenticated or even an anonymous basis. So you don't really even have to identify who's holding your tokens or what have you once we have the first event or the Genesis block on the ICO. What happens after that is if you want to get into the ecosystem and start using the Blockcerts utilities and the actual contracts, you authenticate, and all of that's on the Blockcerts blockchain, you will have your own Blockcerts token account. And that Blockcerts token account and wallet is required for you to process your smart transactions, or for anybody to process a smart transaction, a smart contract, because it's authenticated. And obviously, the whole idea behind a smart contract is making it smart, which is what I think you're talking about, Jay, in a couple of weeks.
Right.
It's true utility and it's true authentication all the way through every step, which is what we have built into the system.
Terrific.
Okay. And then the last question that I have here from Ronnie is, when is your ICO?
Well, that's a good question, because if you had asked me that in January, I would say right about now. But things move differently than you expect. So right now, I think, Tim, I'm targeting sometime around September. What do you think?
I think that's realistic. I think what will happen is we'll have a couple of pre-releases. So again, I think we said last time the beta releases will be coming out during the summer. And anybody who registers is going to get notified of that. And then I think our actual official release on ICO and basically fully going live. So we're going to run this like a software. We're going to do beta first. Get some utility going, get some tokens out there, get some use cases going, and then in September we'll have some of these major use cases released. So I think around that time is when we'll see our ICO.
Perfect. And then one thing I did want to mention, Tim, is right now we're creating a new investor deck. We have a narrated investor deck that's available to anyone interested in investing today. The new one is going to include some of the new information. They're both going to be really good. So if anyone does have an interest in investing, please just register on our site. Let us know. We'll be happy to get you as much information as you want and then some on what we're doing and why this is going to be, probably one of those investments that you look back on and say, I did good on that one.
Well, and one of the things I'll point out is our development and all of our market work has kept us so busy that we're quite far ahead of our websites and even materials that we already have written that talk about true use cases. I did get one question on, how do we do use cases? And I answered it in text, basically saying, we'll answer that next week because we're trying to keep this down to investment. But we will be updating a lot in the next couple of weeks, and a lot of media and new information is going to be posted about what we've really accomplished since the beginning of the year, and it's a lot. So just keep your eye out. We will be notifying everybody by email what the new information is as it's posted. So just keep your eye out there, and we'll let you know.
And it won't be long as you're registered on our site or we have your email address, that we'll be sending out a regular newsletter, which will give everybody an opportunity to keep up with us. Not that we need another thing to do, but I think that's critical to people being able to follow our story.
And I will point out that it's important to register, because with a lot of the new privacy laws coming out, especially in Europe and now in Canada, we will be getting very tight on who we're sending information to. So if you're not registered, you're not going to know. So register at a minimum to keep up, and also to get your priority position for when the ICO does come out. Or if you're already an investor, make sure that you're able to keep track of what's going on.
Great.
Okay, I think we're out of time, Jay. But that was phenomenal. Thank you so much. You answered a lot of questions I would have about investing in Blockcerts tokens, and excited to see that new deck that you're working on.
Great. And if anyone else has any questions about investing, I'm always available. Just feel free to contact me. All my information's on our websites. And I just love talking to investors because we can make money.
Well, you're the guy. So thanks for a great Ask Me Anything. And remember, next week at 11 o'clock, we'll have Ask Me Anything. We'll dive right back into what's happening with Blockcerts blockchain and all the exciting technology advancements, as well as business use cases that we're bringing up online and bringing live. So thanks, everybody, for joining us, and keep supporting the blockchain initiative. It's important, and it's definitely changing the way the world works.
Thanks, everybody.